Hey everyone, and welcome back. This time, we're tackling something a little different.
Different good, right?
Well, I hope so. You get a request from a listener who's dreaming big, like really big.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
They're thinking about opening a restaurant in Kuwait.
Wow, that is ambitious. Kuwait, huh? Interesting choice.
Right. So they sent us this Minuvial blog post all about Kuwait's restaurant scene, and, well, let's just say it's a lot to unpack.
I can imagine. The restaurant industry anywhere is complex, but in a place like Kuwait, with its unique culture and, I'm guessing, some pretty specific regulations.
Oh, you got that right. We're talking Islamic dietary laws, a diverse population, a booming economy. It's a whole different ballgame.
So where do we even begin?
Well, I figured we'd start by giving our listener a solid overview of the market landscape, like a crash course in Kuwait's culinary scene.
Sounds like a plan.
Let's kick things off with the basics. Why Kuwait? What makes it a good spot for a restaurant?
Well, for starters, Kuwait has a strong economy and a really diverse population, which always makes for an interesting dining scene. But the real kicker, the food and beverage market there is massive. We're talking over $3 billion.
Whoa, that's a lot of hummus and shawarma.
Yeah.
But seriously, $3 billion. That's got to mean people in Kuwait really love to eat out.
They do. Dining out is a huge part of the culture there, especially for younger generations. It's more than just grabbing a bite. It's a social event, a way to connect with friends and family.
So it's not just about feeding people, it's about creating an experience.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to what Kuwaiti diners are looking for, they definitely value high quality. They're open to international cuisines, things like American, Italian, Japanese.
Oh, so the usual suspects.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there's also a demand for something a little more, well, Kuwaiti.
Oh, absolutely. Traditional Kuwaiti cuisine is all about those rich, aromatic flavors, the spices, the slow-cooked meats, the fragrant rice dishes like makbuz, a flavorful rice dish with meat and spices, and hariz, a slow-cooked wheat porridge with meat, are staples. And dining is very social. It's not uncommon for groups to share large platters, which creates a sense of community and togetherness.
So understanding that social aspect of dining is key for anyone wanting to open a restaurant there. I'm imagining big tables, lots of sharing, a lively atmosphere.
You got it. But of course, we also need to talk about those Islamic dietary laws.
Right, those are a big factor in Kuwait, so no pork and limited alcohol.
Exactly. That means any restaurant concept needs to be mindful of these restrictions. It's about respecting the culture and ensuring your menu is inclusive and appropriate.
Okay, so we've got this fascinating blend of traditional Middle Eastern flavors, a love for international cuisines, and a strong emphasis on the social aspects of dining. That's quite a foundation to build upon. But what about trends? What's hot in Kuwait's restaurant scene right now?
Well, one of the biggest trends is tech integration. Kuwaiti diners are tech-savvy, and they expect a seamless digital experience. We're talking digital menus, online ordering, mobile payments, all those things that make dining more convenient and personalized.
So if you're not tech-friendly, you're kind of out of luck.
Pretty much. And then there's the rise of delivery apps like Talabat and Deliveroo. These have absolutely exploded in popularity, especially with the younger generation.
Convenience is king, right. But I'm also seeing sustainability pop up as a major trend everywhere. Is that something that resonates with Kuwaiti consumers?
It is. There's a growing awareness of environmental issues, and diners are increasingly seeking out restaurants that prioritize sustainable practices. They want locally sourced ingredients, eco-friendly packaging, and responsible waste management.
So it's not just a niche concern anymore, it's becoming mainstream. And what about those with a taste for the finer things in life? Kuwait's got a pretty affluent population, right? What's the luxury dining scene like?
The high-end dining scene is thriving. There's a real appetite for premium ingredients, world-renowned chefs, and those luxurious, Instagram-worthy settings. Think tasting menus with wine pairings, personalized service, and exclusive experiences.
Sounds fancy. So we've got this intriguing mix of traditional Kuwaiti flavors, international influences, a tech-savvy population, a growing focus on sustainability, and a thriving luxury market. That's a lot to consider when developing a restaurant concept.
It is, and that brings us to the next crucial question. Choosing the right concept. You can have the best food in the world, but if your concept doesn't align with the market, you're going to struggle.
Right. The Minuvial blog really hammered that point home. Understand your target market, align with trends, offer something unique and relevant. But it's not just about the idea itself, is it? Location, 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 that old adage still holds true.
Oh, absolutely. Location is everything, especially in a place like Kuwait, where prime real estate comes at a premium.
So we're talking malls, Business districts, waterfront properties, those high visibility, high traffic areas.
Exactly. But even in those prime locations, you need to think about accessibility and parking. Even the best concept can struggle if customers can't easily reach your restaurant or find a place to park their car.
So there's a lot of strategic thinking involved in choosing the right location. It's not just about picking the fanciest or most expensive spot.
Nope, it's about finding the right balance between visibility, accessibility, and of course, affordability.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks. What are some of the restaurant concepts that are already thriving in Kuwait? What are the tried and true options that seem to be resonating with diners?
Well, at the top of the food chain, we have fine dining, catering to that affluent market we were talking about. These are your white tablecloth establishments, impeccable service, exquisite cuisine, often featuring premium ingredients. Think truffles, caviar, wagyu beef.
Ooh la la.
Oh.
Sounds delicious, but
Yeah.
maybe a little out of reach for the average diner. What about those folks who are looking for quality without breaking the bank?
That's where fast casual comes in. This segment is booming in Kuwait. It's all about quality ingredients, fresh flavors, customizable options, and a casual, often trendy setting. Think gourmet burgers, build your own salads, artisanal pizzas.
So it's fast food, but with a focus on freshness and quality.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's always good old-fashioned quick service restaurants, the QSRs.
Right, those are a staple everywhere.
You bet. Big names like McDonald's and KFC are doing very well in Kuwait thanks to their strong brand recognition, affordable prices, and efficient operations. They've really nailed that grab-and-go market.
Now, I'm personally a big fan of cafes and coffee shops, and it seems like Kuwait has really embraced that global coffee culture.
Oh, totally. Specialty coffee is huge in Kuwait. These aren't just places to grab a quick cup of joe. They're social hubs, meeting spots, workspaces. You'll find people lingering for hours, enjoying the atmosphere, and sipping on those fancy lattes and cappuccinos.
I can practically smell the freshly roasted beans and see those Instagram-worthy latte art creations. But for someone with a more entrepreneurial spirit, what about food trucks? They seem to be popping up everywhere these days.
Food trucks are definitely gaining traction in Kuwait. They offer lower startup costs, flexibility in terms of location, and a chance to experiment with those trendy or fusion menus that are so popular right now. It's a great way to test the waters and build a following before maybe investing in a brick-and-mortar location.
That's a really good point. And finally, we can't forget about the diverse world of ethnic and specialty restaurants.
Right. Kuwait's population is incredibly diverse, so there's a real demand for authentic cuisines from all over the world. Japanese, Italian, Indian, Lebanese, you name it, you'll probably find it in Kuwait.
So something for everyone. But let's face it, when it comes to opening a restaurant, everyone wants to know about the bottom line profitability. What factors influence a restaurant's success in Kuwait?
Profitability, that's the million-dollar question. And there's no easy answer because so many factors come into play. Location costs are a major consideration. Those prime spots we talked about, they come with high rent, but the potential for greater foot traffic can offset that.
So it's a gamble, but a calculated one.
Exactly. Then there's the cost of labor. Kuwait has specific labor laws, and those need to be factored in. Minimum wage requirements, benefits, work visas, it all adds up.
It seems like understanding those regulations is crucial for anyone wanting to open a restaurant in Kuwait.
Absolutely. And of course, menu pricing is key. You need to find that sweet spot where your prices are appealing to your target market, but you're still making a profit.
So no undercharging your delicious creations just to be the cheapest spot on the block.
Right. It's about knowing your worth and pricing your menu accordingly.
So with all that in mind, which restaurant concepts tend to be the most profitable in Kuwait? Where are those sweet profit margins?
Generally, the concepts with lower overheads and high turnover tend to do well. QSRs, with their efficient operations and high volume, they usually see healthy profit margins. Fast casual concepts, with their broad appeal and that focus on speed and efficiency, they also do well.
Interesting. So those are your more accessible options, the ones that cater to a wider audience.
Exactly. Cafes can also be quite profitable, especially those in busy locations, because that markup on coffee and pastries is pretty high. Fine dining, on the other hand, while it can be lucrative, requires a significant upfront investment, and it caters to a more niche market.
So higher risk, higher reward.
Pretty much.
Before anyone rushes off to open their dream restaurant in Kuwait, What's the one piece of advice you'd give them based on everything we've discussed so far?
Validate your concept. Don't just assume your brilliant idea will automatically translate into success. Do your research, study dining trends, analyze your competitors, and if possible, test your concept before going all in. Maybe do a pop-up event or some online pre-orders, see how people respond, get some real-world feedback.
That's smart. It's like dipping your toes in the water before jumping headfirst into the deep end.
Exactly.
Now, let's face it, there's a less glamorous side to opening a restaurant, those legal requirements. What are those essential hoops that aspiring restaurateurs in Kuwait need to jump through?
The legal stuff, it's not the most exciting part, but it's absolutely crucial. You don't want to run into trouble down the line because you skipped a step. First up, you'll need a commercial license from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry.
Okay, so that's step one, get that paperwork rolling.
Then there's the food establishment permit from the Kuwait municipality. This ensures you meet all those hygiene and safety standards, which are really important.
Right, because no one wants a food poisoning scandal. So you've got to have those kitchens sparkling clean and those food handling procedures down pat.
Exactly. And if you're planning on any outdoor signage, you'll also need a signage permit from the Kuwait municipality.
So lots of permits. And I'm guessing fire safety is a big priority.
Absolutely. You'll need civil defense approval, which usually involves an inspection to make sure you're meeting all those fire safety regulations. And then, of course, there are those food safety and health regulations. Kuwait is really strict about this. The Kuwait municipality conducts regular inspections, and there are strict rules about food handling and employee health checks.
It sounds like Kuwait has a really thorough system in place to ensure the safety and well-being of diners, which is a good thing, right?
Oh,
No one wants to get sick from a meal.
absolutely. And speaking of regulations, don't forget about those labor laws. We keep coming back to them, but they're so important. Work visas, minimum wage requirements, contracts. Make sure you've got all your ducks in a row to avoid any legal issues.
It seems like doing your due diligence on those labor laws is non-negotiable.
It really is.
And just a quick reminder for anyone dreaming of opening a wine bar or a gastropub, Kuwait has a strict no alcohol policy.
Right. We mentioned that earlier, but it's worth repeating. Islamic law prohibits alcohol, so that's something you need to be aware of.
Okay, you've got all your permits, your staff is hired, your kitchen is sparkling clean. Now, how do you get the word out and attract those hungry customers?
Marketing. You need to get creative and reach those diners where they are. In Kuwait, a two-pronged approach is best. Traditional marketing methods like flyers, billboards, and radio ads still have their place, especially for reaching a broader audience.
So those classic methods still hold power, especially in a place like Kuwait, where traditional media is still very much a part of the landscape.
Exactly. But you can't ignore the digital landscape either. Social media is huge in Kuwait. Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. You need to be active on those platforms. Showcase your brand, engage with your audience, and influencer partnerships. Those can be really effective, especially for reaching that younger, tech-savvy crowd.
Right. Influencers hold a lot of sway these days. And I imagine Google Ads and SEO are crucial for making sure people can actually find your restaurant online.
Absolutely. You want to make sure you're popping up in those search results when people are looking for a place to eat.
And once you've attracted those customers, how do you keep them coming back for more?
Customer retention is just as important as acquisition. Loyalty programs are a great way to reward repeat customers and build brand loyalty.
So think points systems, VIP benefits, exclusive, offers those little perks that made people feel valued.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of online delivery platforms.
Right, those delivery apps have become such a huge part of the dining experience.
They have. Make sure you're on all the major platforms like Talabat, Deliveroo, Carriage, and make sure your menu is optimized for delivery. Offer special promotions, make it super easy to order online, and focus on providing a seamless and enjoyable delivery experience.
So it's not just about the food, it's about the entire experience, from the moment they place that order to the moment they take that first bite.
Precisely.
Okay, we've covered everything from legal requirements to marketing strategies, but let's not forget the heart of the matter, the dining experience itself. What are some key elements that create a truly memorable dining experience in Kuwait?
Creating a memorable experience, it's about going above and beyond, exceeding those expectations, and making diners feel truly special. It starts with the ambiance, the feeling you get when you walk into a restaurant. In Kuwait, we see a lot of success with modern minimalism, clean lines, neutral colors, a sense of sophistication.
So creating a space that feels both elegant and inviting.
Exactly. But there's also a growing trend toward blending traditional Kuwaiti elements with contemporary design.
Oh, like incorporating geometric patterns, using local materials, those kinds of
You
things.
got it. It's about creating a space that feels both familiar and fresh, rooted in Kuwaiti culture, but with a modern twist. And of course, those Instagrammable moments are important, especially for attracting that younger, social media savvy crowd.
Right, because if it's not on Instagram, did it even happen?
Huh, pretty much. So think bold murals, unique lighting, custom furniture, those little touches that make a space visually appealing and memorable. But it's not just about the look of the place, right? Service plays a huge role in shaping the overall dining experience.
Oh, absolutely. I've had amazing meals that were completely ruined by terrible service. No one wants to feel like just another customer, right?
Exactly. Exceptional service is what truly sets a restaurant apart. It's about creating that welcoming and attentive atmosphere, anticipating needs, and going the extra mile to make sure every guest feels valued.
So what does that look like in practice? What makes for exceptional service?
Comprehensive staff training is crucial, especially when it comes to cultural sensitivity. Kuwait has its own unique customs and etiquette, so make sure your team is well versed in those.
Right. It's about understanding those nuances and ensuring that every diner feels respected and welcome.
Exactly. Empower your team to offer personalized recommendations, anticipate needs, and go above and beyond to exceed expectations. Those little gestures can really make a big difference.
Like remembering a customer's favorite drink, offering to adjust a dish to their liking, or simply greeting them with a genuine smile.
Absolutely. It's those small things that create a lasting impression.
And of course, we can't forget about the star of the show, the menu itself.
The menu, it's not just a list of dishes. It's an extension of your brand, a reflection of your culinary vision, and a key element in shaping the dining experience. In Kuwait, it's about striking that balance between tradition and innovation.
So incorporating those familiar flavors and dishes while also offering something new and exciting.
Exactly. You might consider incorporating local Kuwaiti ingredients into your dishes, or maybe putting a modern twist on traditional recipes. Fusion dishes, combining different culinary influences, those are also really popular right now. And don't underestimate the power of descriptive language.
Right, make those dishes sound irresistible. And speaking of irresistible, catering to those diverse dietary needs is crucial these days.
Absolutely. Clearly labeling vegan, gluten-free, and halal options ensures that everyone feels welcome and catered to.
Right, it's about inclusivity and recognizing that not everyone eats the same way. And as we discussed earlier, technology can play a big role in creating a seamless and enjoyable dining experience.
Absolutely. Digital menus offer convenience and flexibility, online reservation systems streamline that booking process, and customer feedback tools, those are invaluable for continuously improving.
So technology isn't just a gimmick. It's a tool that can actually enhance the dining experience.
Precisely.
Okay, so far it's sounding pretty optimistic, but we also need to be realistic about the challenges, right? What are some hurdles that restaurateurs might face in Kuwait?
Well, we've already talked about the competition, and that's a big one. Kuwait's dining scene is incredibly diverse and vibrant, so standing out from the crowd requires a solid strategy. You need to have a unique selling proposition, something that differentiates you from everyone else.
So it's not enough to just serve good food. You need to have that it factor, that something special that draws people in.
Exactly. And then there's the economic factor. Kuwait's economy, heavily influenced by oil prices, can be unpredictable. This can impact consumer spending and make it difficult to forecast revenue and manage costs.
So you need to be prepared for those fluctuations, be adaptable, and have a solid financial plan.
Absolutely. And then there's the issue of relying on imported goods, which we touched on earlier. Kuwait imports the majority of its food, so that can make you vulnerable to supply chain disruptions, price fluctuations, and limited local sourcing options.
So building strong relationships with suppliers, diversifying your sources, and maybe even exploring local sourcing options where possible, those are all crucial steps.
Definitely. And those seasonal trends we mentioned, Ramadan and the summer slowdown, those also present unique challenges.
Right, so it's about being aware of those fluctuations and adapting your operations accordingly.
Precisely. Flexibility is key in the restaurant industry, especially in a market like Kuwait.
Okay, we've talked about the challenges, but let's end on a high note, shall we? What's next? What exciting trends are shaping the future of dining in Kuwait? What do aspiring restaurateurs need to have on their radar?
Well, one thing's for sure. The future of dining in Kuwait is dynamic and exciting, full of possibilities. And sustainability, it's not just a trend anymore, it's an expectation. Diners are demanding eco-friendly practices. They want to know where their food comes from, how it's produced, and what impact it's having on the environment.
So it's not just about serving delicious food, it's about doing so responsibly and ethically.
Exactly. And technology, oh, it's playing a bigger role than ever before. We're seeing online ordering platforms, QR code menus, AI-powered tools that streamline operations and personalize the dining experience.
So technology isn't just about convenience, it's about creating a more personalized and interactive dining experience.
Exactly. And then there's the whole movement towards health and wellness, which is having a massive impact on the dining landscape.
You're right. Consumers are much more mindful of what they're eating these days. They're reading labels, asking questions, and seeking out restaurants that align with their health goals.
Absolutely. So you're seeing a surge in demand for plant-based options, gluten-free dishes, menus that cater to specific dietary restrictions. Restaurants that embrace this trend and offer those healthy, flavorful options, they're going to be well-positioned for success.
So it's about catering to those individual needs, offering choices, and recognizing that health-conscious dining is here to stay.
Precisely. And then finally, there's this trend towards experiential dining, which I find super interesting. Diners are looking for more than just a meal. They want an experience. They want something that engages all their senses, sparks conversation, creates memories.
So it's about creating those wow moments, going beyond the food itself, and crafting an atmosphere, a story, a feeling that surrounds that dining experience.
Exactly. We're seeing restaurants incorporating interactive elements, hosting pop-up events, collaborating with local artists, creating those immersive and engaging dining experiences.
It's about turning a meal into an event. All of this is incredibly fascinating, but let's bring it back to our listener who's considering opening a restaurant in Kuwait. What would be your key piece of advice for them, given all the trends and challenges we've just discussed?
I'd say first and foremost, do your homework. Research those dining trends, analyze the successful concepts, identify a gap that you can fill, and really understand the market and the competition.
So be strategic, be thoughtful, don't just jump in blindly.
Exactly. And be prepared to adapt. The restaurant industry, it's constantly evolving, so you need to be flexible, be willing to embrace those new trends and ideas, and don't be afraid to pivot if you need to.
And never underestimate the power of passion.
Absolutely. Passion, it's what fuels creativity, drives innovation, and ultimately makes a restaurant stand out from the crowd.
So passion, adaptability, a willingness to embrace change. Those are the ingredients for success in Kuwait's dynamic culinary landscape.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to address one crucial aspect that sometimes gets overlooked, and that's
Financial management. You can have the best food, the coolest concept, but if you're not on top of your finances, you're setting yourself up for a world of hurt.
it's the not-so-glamorous side of the business, but it's the foundation, right?
Exactly. It's what keeps the lights on, the ingredients flowing, and the staff paid.
So let's break it down. What are some key financial considerations for anyone thinking about opening a restaurant in Kuwait?
Well, first things first, you need a solid budget, a realistic one. You got to figure out your startup costs, your operating expenses, how long it's going to take to break even.
It's easy to get carried away with the excitement of opening a restaurant, but those numbers, those are the reality check.
They are. And it's amazing how many people underestimate those startup costs. They think about the big stuff like rent and equipment, but they forget about all those little things that add up. Permits and licenses, kitchen supplies, initial inventory, marketing materials, staff training.
Right. Those hidden costs can really sneak up on you.
They can. And of course, we've talked a lot about those labor laws in Kuwait. Those are crucial to factor in. Minimum wage requirements, benefits, potentially visa costs if you're hiring foreign workers, it all adds up. And remember, your staff, they're your biggest asset. Invest in them, train them well, create a positive work environment, and they'll be more likely to stick around.
Makes sense. Happy staff, happy customers.
Yeah.
Right. So you got your budget in place, you're complying with those labor laws. What's next on the financial checklist?
Inventory management, that's a biggie. This is where a lot of restaurants, they either save or lose a ton of money.
Right, because food waste is a huge problem in the restaurant industry.
It is. You need to have systems in place to track your inventory, monitor those expiration dates, minimize waste as much as possible, and think about strategies like first in, first out rotation. So you're using the oldest ingredients first. And get creative with those leftovers. Use them for daily specials or staff meals.
Reduce, reuse, recycle, even in the kitchen.
Exactly. And when it comes to buying those ingredients, be smart about it. Negotiate with suppliers, Buy in bulk when it makes sense. Shop around for the best prices. Every little bit helps.
Smart shopping, restaurant edition. And what about pricing your menu? That's got to be tricky, right? Finding that balance between being competitive and, actually making a profit.
It is. It's a delicate dance. You got to consider your target market, what they're willing to pay, your costs, and what your competitors are charging. Do your research, analyze those recipes, calculate your costs, and figure out what your profit margin is on each dish.
So it's a combination of art and science. You've got those culinary instincts, but you also need to be savvy about those numbers.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to play around with different pricing strategies. Think about those value-added offerings. Combo meals, prefix menus, those can entice diners while also helping you maximize profits. And limited time promotions, happy hour deals, those can be really effective for driving traffic during those slower periods.
So be strategic, be creative, and find what works best for your restaurant.
Exactly. Now, here's a piece of advice that applies to all aspects of financial management. Be prepared for the unexpected.
Because in the restaurant world, let's face it, something always comes up.
Always. So build a contingency fund into your budget, a little cushion for those unforeseen expenses that inevitably pop up. Equipment breaks down, deliveries get delayed, ingredient prices suddenly spike. You never know what's going to happen.
So it's like an emergency fund for your restaurant.
Exactly. And speaking of important financial stuff, don't forget about taxes. Kuwait has its own specific tax regulations, so make sure you consult with a tax professional to ensure you're doing everything by the book.
Tax is the one thing we can all count on.
Pretty much. And here's the thing about financial management. It's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process. You got to be constantly monitoring your cash flow, analyzing those sales data, making adjustments along the way. It's dynamic and it requires attention.
So stay organized, stay informed, and be willing to adapt those financial strategies as needed. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, from market trends to culinary innovations, but I think one of the biggest takeaways for me is the importance of sound financial management.
It's the foundation of any successful restaurant.
Absolutely. But before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listener with a challenge, something to really get those creative juices flowing.
I love a good challenge.
Okay, so given everything we've discussed, the trends, the challenges, the opportunities, what unique restaurant concept could you create that would not only resonate with those Kuwaiti diners, but also stand out in that crowded market?
Ooh, that's a good one. And honestly, there's no right or wrong answer. It's about finding that spark of inspiration, that unique blend of flavors, atmosphere, and service that's going to capture people's hearts and stomachs.
So tap into those creative instincts, do your research, and don't be afraid to think outside the box.
Exactly. And remember, the Menuvio blog, it's a great resource for further exploration and inspiration.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a fascinating topic. But until then, happy cooking and bon appetit.
Bon appetit. You know, it's funny. We talk about food, ambiance, service, but at the end of the day, a restaurant is a business.
Right. And no matter how delicious your food is, you can't stay open if you're not making money.
Exactly. And that's where financial management comes in. It's crucial, but sometimes it gets overlooked, especially by those first-time restaurateurs.
They're so focused on the creative side of things, the menu, the design, but the numbers, those are just as important.
They are, and that's what we're going to dive into today. So let's talk about those potential financial pitfalls that new restaurant owners in Kuwait, those things they need to be aware of.
Okay, so what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make? Where do things tend to go wrong financially?
Well, one of the most common mistakes, it's underestimating those startup costs.
I can see how that happens.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of opening a restaurant, designing the space, creating the menu, but you got to be realistic about how much money it's actually going to take to get those doors open.
You do. And there are always those hidden costs that people don't anticipate. Like, you might budget for the big things, the rent, the equipment, but then there are those permits and licenses, the kitchen supplies, the initial inventory, the marketing materials, the staff training.
Right. Those little things add up.
They do. And they can really throw off your budget if you're not careful. And then, of course, there's the cost of labor, which in Kuwait is not insignificant.
We keep coming back to those labor laws, but they're so important.
They are. Minimum wage requirements, benefits, those potential visa costs if you're hiring foreign workers, it all adds up. And remember, your staff, they can make or break your restaurant. So invest in them, train them well, create a positive work environment.
Makes sense. Happy staff, happy customers. Okay, so you've got a realistic budget, you're complying with those labor laws. What's next on that financial checklist?
Inventory management. Oh, this is a big one. This is where things can get really messy financially speaking.
Right, because food waste, that's money down the drain.
Literally. So you need to have those systems in place, track your inventory, those expiration dates, minimize waste. And think about strategies like first in, first out. So you're using the oldest ingredients first. And get creative with leftovers. Don't just toss them. Use them for staff meals, daily specials. Find ways to repurpose those ingredients.
That's all about being resourceful.
It is. And when it comes to buying those ingredients, you got to be smart about it. Negotiate with your suppliers, buy in bulk when it makes sense, compare prices, really shop around.
It's like grocery shopping on a grand scale.
Pretty much. Now, once you've got those ingredients, you got to figure out how to price those dishes.
Right. Menu pricing, that's got to be delicate balance.
It is.
Yeah.
You got to find that sweet spot where your prices are competitive, appealing to those diners, but you're also making a profit. So you got to analyze those recipes, calculate the actual cost of each dish, and then figure out your profit margin.
So it's a combination of art and science. You got to have those culinary instincts, but you also need to be really savvy about those numbers.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment with different pricing strategies. Think about those combo meals, prix-fixe menus. Those can be really effective for enticing those diners and also maximizing those profits. And don't forget about those limited time promotions, those happy hour deals, all those things that can help boost sales, especially during those slower periods.
So be creative, be strategic, and see what works best for your restaurant.
Exactly. And this is crucial. Be prepared for the unexpected.
Because, let's be honest, in the restaurant business, things rarely go according to plan.
Right. There's always something. The oven breaks down, a delivery gets delayed, ingredient prices suddenly skyrocket. You just never know. So have that contingency fund, build it into your budget. That way, when those unexpected expenses pop up, you're covered.
It's like having a financial safety net for your restaurant.
Exactly. And speaking of important financial stuff, don't forget those taxes. Kuwait, they've got their own set of tax regulations, so it's always a good idea to consult with a tax professional to make sure you're in compliance.
Tax is the one thing we can always count on.
Sadly, yes. And here's the thing about financial management. It's not a one-and-done thing. You got to be constantly monitoring your cash flow, looking at those sales data, analyzing everything, and making those adjustments as needed. It's an ongoing process, and it requires attention.
So stay organized, stay informed, be proactive, and be willing to adapt.
Exactly.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We talked about market trends, those culinary innovations, the legal stuff, the financial side of things.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. But I think the key takeaway here is that opening a restaurant, it's not for the faint of heart.
It's not. It's challenging, it's demanding, but it's also incredibly rewarding.
Absolutely. And for those who are passionate about food, about creating those memorable dining experiences, it can be an incredibly fulfilling journey.
It can.
So for our listener who's dreaming of opening a restaurant in Kuwait, we hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights and a realistic view of what it takes to succeed in this vibrant and competitive market.
We hope so.
And remember, this is just the beginning. There are so many resources out there, people who can help you along the way. The Venuvio blog is a fantastic place to start. Do your research, connect with other restaurateurs, and most importantly, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Exactly.
So to our listener, keep dreaming, keep learning, and keep that passion for food alive. And to all of you out there listening, thanks for joining us on this culinary adventure. We'll be back soon with another deep dive. But until then, happy cooking and bon appétit.
Bon appétit!